Growing up, my gift had brought me nothing but misery. Friendships shattered, jobs lost, concerned clients getting me fired from makeup studios at the mere mention of my visions. No matter how hard I tried to suppress it, the universe kept throwing me under the bus. But Jason Nash was my ticket out of the gutter. A high-profile client that could launch my makeup career into the stratosphere. So what if he had a hard-on for the occult? Why should I give a flying Ouija board about enabling his delusions if working for him would give me enough money to have my own makeup studio? Standing in his cold dressing room, my hand shook as I brushed powder across Jason's chiseled jawline, terrified I'd smudge it. This was it. My shot at the big time. Or, at least, at paying next month's rent. "There," I said, stepping back to eye my handiwork. "What do you think?" Jason swiveled to face the mirror, his famous gray eyes sparkling critically under the bright vanity lights. He angled his chin this way and that, scrutinizing every pore. "Not bad," he allowed, the barest twitch of a smile ghosting across his lips. "At least you didn't try to make me look like an Oompa Loompa or Edward Cullen." I huffed a relieved laugh even as his manager stormed in like a hurricane in heels, beelining for Jason. "A little bronzer wouldn't kill you, you know," she snapped, snatching away his boba tea. "It'd make you look more like a leading man and less like an extra on The Walking Dead." I cringed as she dumped the cup in the trash beside me, flecking my secondhand blazer with tapioca pearls. Just frickin' great. "I hate coffee and you know it, Karen," Jason bit back, cool as ever. His gray gaze flicked to the stains on my jacket. "Sorry about that, man." It's all good," I shrugged, like spilt milk on my clothes spelt typical Tuesday. Mentally, I steeled myself. It was now or never. As Jason reached for the makeup wipes, I lunged forward, my fingers brushing his shoulder before I could chicken out. I squeezed my eyes shut. Waited. Nothing. Nada. Zip. Well, shit. This wasn't how things usually shook out. My entire life, I had had visions any time I made skin contact with someone. A gift, a curse, a one-way ticket to crazy town. Call it whatever. I'd seen it all. Cheating husbands and two-timing wives, guilt-racked criminals, and kids with their hands in the cookie jar. But this? This never happened. Not once. Jason Nash's future was a goddamn blank page. I had nothing to bluff with. But I had already gone all in. There was no folding now. Gasping, I staggered back, one hand melodramatically clasped to my chest, and my long hair covered my face. "Oh my god!" I wheezed, eyes popping like I'd seen a ghost. Jason whipped around, annoyance warring with concern on his unfairly symmetrical face. What's wrong?" I saw something," I choked out, committing to the lie. "When I touched you just now, I had a vision of your future." Surprise lifted his brows into his artfully tousled hairline. "What are you supposed to be? Some sort of psychic?" "Yes," I confirmed somberly, infusing my voice with grave authority. "And what I saw just now, it's not good, Jason." For a second, fear flickered across his unfairly beautiful face. But then he scoffed, doubt icing over his eyes. "Let me guess. I'm gonna lose my career to some BS scandal cooked up by TMZ?" I shook my head, putting every ounce of conviction I could scrounge into my voice. "No, Jason. I saw you die. 2 months from now." Boom. Bombshell dropped. Jason went white. "No," he scoffed, but I could see the panic setting in. "No way. I'm healthy as hell. You're lying." "I wish I was," I countered. "I've had this ability my whole life. I don't choose what I see, but it always comes true." "This is insane," he blustered, but I could see the cracks in his devil-may-care armor. "I'm literally at the peak of my career. I can't die. Not yet." Damn, I actually felt a twinge of something almost like sympathy, but not enough to back down. Not when I was this close to the most lucrative job of my life. In a world where genuine psychics were 1 in a million, most people dismissed my gift as a scam. But every now and then, I'd encounter a true believer. Usually someone who'd lost a loved one or had a brush with the supernatural themselves. They were the only ones who didn't run screaming when I started spouting my morbid predictions. "Look," I said, softening my voice with a dollop of understanding. "I get how messed up this must seem. And I know I probably sound like a nut job, but maybe I can help you." "Help me?" Jason narrowed his eyes. "How?" I shrugged with a calculated nonchalance. "I can stick close, keep an eye on things. If I see anything else, any clues about what might, do you in, I can give you a heads up. Maybe we can change your fate." Suspicion darkened his Ken doll features. "And I suppose you'd want me to pay you for this little arrangement?" "Well, I do have bills, but I'd rather have you alive than not, So just keep me on as your MUA and throw in a little psychic hazard pay, and I'll do my best to keep you breathing." Jason stared at me for a small eternity. I could practically hear the squeaky wheels turning behind his unfairly glossy hair. "You're serious?" he said finally, sounding almost awed. "You're actually claiming to be a psychic?" You see, Jason Nash was obsessed when it came to spiritual stuff. I'd done thorough research before coming to this job interview. So what if I was misusing my powers? I'd been trying to survive and work my way up properly, but that got me nowhere. So what if I wanted to start benefiting from this terrible curse? I didn't back down, didn't drop my gaze from his. "I wish I was. Look, I know this is going to sound insane, but I've had this gift my whole life. I don't always see things, but when I do, they always come true." Then, after what felt like years, Jason finally nodded. "Fine, you're hired. As my makeup artist and whatever this psychic bodyguard or whatever." Karen, his manager, pulled him aside in a failed attempt to whisper, "Psychic my ass! We still have other makeup artists to interview." "Are they psychic?" Jason retorted, giving me a tight smile. Karen huffed and stormed out the door, giving me a suspicious glance. "I smell a rat on this one." I felt a wave of relief, followed by guilt. But I pushed it down and pasted on a grateful smile, facing the only person who wasn't looking at me suspiciously. "Thank you, Jason. You won't regret this." Monday morning. I drove my scummy Honda around the circle drive of Jason's mansion, wincing as it sounded suspiciously like a beached whale. This place was ridiculous. Who needed a fountain in the shape of a giant Oscar statue anyway? But as I killed the engine, I reminded myself this was my new normal, at least for the next 2 months. Even better, when nothing happened to him in 2 months, he'd think I saved his life. Karen went through the due diligence of a thorough background check and a huge heap of NDAs. For once, I was grateful for all the customer reports of my visions at my old makeup studio. It served as proof. She didn't buy it totally, but at least she knew now that I didn't pull it out my ass. I made my way to the large door, but swung open before I could knock, revealing Jason's PA, Marjorie. To make up for being down to earth, her feet teetered dangerously in 4-inch heels. "Kory, right? I'm Marjorie." She extended a hand, then quickly withdrew it at my hesitation. "Sorry, germaphobe?" "Something like that," I muttered, relieved. It was obvious Karen and Jason hadn't given her the brief. With how strange my gift was, people weren't subtle about their aversion to physical contact with me. Ironically, I had one job where physical contact was compulsory. Lucky for them, I hated touching people too, unless it was absolutely necessary. Seeing their future and getting bashed for it always broke me. Marjorie wound a path in and out of the twist and turn of hallways, circling to Jason's private suite. "He's in a mood today," she warned, voice low. "The studio execs want to push back the release date of his last film. Again." She made her way down the hall, leaving me to stand alone. I sucked in a deep breath and knocked. "What?" Jason's voice grated from indoors. I cracked the door open and peeked in. "It's Kory, your makeup artist / psychic sidekick?" "Right, you. Come in." Well, don't sound too happy to see me. I pushed the door open and wheedled in. Jason paced before the window, one hand on the glass, the other one holding the phone to his ear. He beckoned me in, but never looked up. "No, Karen, you listen to me," he growled into the phone. "I'm not doing another reshoot, goddammit. The scene works." I slid into the corner beside the vanity, unloading my kit as I tried not to listen, but it was impossible not to overhear, of course. "I don't care what the test audience has said," Jason huffed, his free hand closing into a fist. "I am not changing my performance to appease some focus groups in Omaha. It's called artistic integrity. Look it up." With that, he hung up and threw the phone onto the couch beside him. Not that I'd been listening or anything, I turned back to organizing brushes. "Get out," Jason sighed, collapsing into the chair beside me. I managed a tiny smile. "Excuse me?" Jason shook his head, then squinted. "Are you deaf? I'll call you back when I need your services, but for now, leave." Holy hell. Jason Nash was kind of a raging asshole. The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of red carpets and rooftop parties, VIP rooms, and velvet ropes. I kept waiting for someone to tap me on the shoulder and send me packing back to Liarville, but it never happened. Every day, I showed up, made Jason camera ready, and spun some vague but dire predictions about his future to keep him hooked. "I'm sensing danger around open water," I'd mutter sagely as I smudged contour along his jaw. "Maybe skip that this week, yeah?" He'd nod, mentally canceling whatever yacht party he had penciled in. I didn't fully understand why he was so spooked by the supernatural or the idea of death, but I'd take his gullibility over a pink slip any day. Because here's the thing, Jason Nash wasn't just a pretty face. Underneath the charm and chiseled jaw, there was something achingly human. When the camera stopped rolling and people disappeared, I caught glimpses of a guy just as lost and lonely as I was. It was in the way his eyes closed when Marjorie mentioned reshoots, like he was steeling himself for battle. The tight clench of his jaw when Karen bothered him about investors and brand image. I tried to ignore it, to focus on the con, but each day, each interaction chipped away at the caricature I'd built up in my head. Revealed the man beneath the movie star, and damn if that man wasn't starting to get under my skin. Although occasionally he was kind of a diva. Even when I was done with makeup, he always found more work for me. "Kory, get my clothes from the wardrobe. Kory, give me coffee from craft's table." Marjorie had to confide in me, worried Jason was about to fire her. Just when I thought I'd have to hug him and jump off a cliff to put us both out of our misery, a miracle happened. Or maybe a glitch in the Matrix. Either way, as I brushed setting powder across Jason's flawless brow bone for the Friday night event, I felt it. That old familiar tingle. The hairs on my neck snapped to attention. Suddenly, I wasn't in the overlit vanity trailer anymore. I was somewhere else. The vision played out in my head and my lungs constricted, refusing to take in another breath. After a few minutes, my eyes snapped open with a ragged gasp, powder brush clattering to the floor. Jason jumped like he had been goosed, gray gaze sharpening on my face. "What is it?" he asked, voice hushed, wary. "Did you see something?" Actually, yeah. But what was I supposed to make of it? In all my years of getting psychic flashes, I never once seen myself in someone else's future, and now... I stalled, brain fumbling. I saw a party, lots of people, loud music, and a car. Jason went still, gaze zeroing in like a laser. "A car?" "Yeah," I nodded somberly. "A big one. Black, I think, with tinted windows. It felt dangerous." In my defense, most deaths in the US were due to car accidents. I was looking out for him. Shit. Jason raked both hands through his stupidly thick hair. "I'm supposed to hit up Diplo's album release thing tonight. He has a black Mercedes. You saying I should bail?" I shrugged, hoping it looked as wise and cryptic rather than "I'm totally talking out my ass." The universe needed 5 middle fingers right now. I was finally able to see a vision of Jason. Why in the frickin' hell was it that? Stuttering, I tried to ignore it. I can't tell you what to do, man. I'm just a messenger. But if it were me, I might find a nicer way to spend my Friday night. You could call a friend over to hang. Jason huffed, slumping back in his chair like the weight of stardom had suddenly become too much. I'm so sick of it, he said, voice low, raw. All of it. The parties, the paps, the phony people. I just wanna, I don't know, have a beer and chill with someone real for once. Someone who isn't kissing my ass for a come-up. Whoa, was Jason Nash opening up? To me? What kind of bizarre world had I quantum leapt into? Definitely one that I wanted no part in right now. Getting personal with people never ended well, especially not with the vision I had seen. I shoveled my brushes into the case, wiped down the table surface, and snapped my makeup kit shut with a loud click. I know, right? Have a good night. What? He asked, jaw open in what looked like disbelief. Confused, I looked around. Is there a problem? Jason ran a frustrated hand through his hair, clenching his jaw. I thought... You know what? Never mind. Just go. I did exactly that. I've been following his orders for almost a month. Why would I stop now? 2 hours later. I trudged down the crowded aisle of Jerry's Corner Store, a grocery store down the street from my apartment. My arms were loaded with cheap beer and even cheaper snacks. I wanted to drown a long week of fake visions and real confusion in junk food and bad TV. Jason was probably throwing a crazy party at his place. With the amount of friends this guy had, his mansion would be overflowing. It was all great. Except for that darn vision I had the afternoon. I needed to quit. As a matter of fact, I need to leave the country and get as far away from Jason Nash as possible. Yeah, first thing Monday morning. I didn't have the money for it, but first thing Monday morning. I turned the corner towards checkout and stopped dead in my tracks, losing my grip on my beer. Right in the middle of my neighborhood convenience store was Jason Nash. Hollywood's golden boy looks so hilariously out of place next to a display of off-brand chips and lottery tickets. He was wearing a hoodie and a cap. Classic celebrity method of trying to not look like a celebrity. Jason? I started to say, and then shock and amusement filled my voice as I took him in. What in the world are you doing here? He spun around so quickly, his eyes wide when he recognized me. Kory, hey, I was just, you live around here? I noticed his chest heaving with heavy breaths and the light sheen of sweat on his brow. Was he running? Before I could ask him any more questions, the store's doors burst open and a group of teenagers stomped in. They looked around until they spotted Jason, and their eyes lit up. Oh my god, it's really him! One of them screamed. Like I said, shitty disguise. Jason paled, and without thought, he grabbed my hand. Run, he shouted, dragging me to the back exit. Run? You run, what the hell am I running for? I screamed, looking nostalgically at my fallen snacks, now trampled under the feet of his adoring fans. We burst out into the alley behind the store, feet pounding the pavement as we ran down to the block. I could hear the very excited screams of fans behind us, but these faded as we went around a corner and ducked into a small park. We clambered onto a bench where we sat for a minute. Then, almost in unison, we began to laugh. Him out of exhilaration and me out of a mix of anger and frustration. Why did I have to run? I needed those snacks to survive. Jason grinned, running a hand through his now disheveled hair. His cap must have fallen off while we ran. Thanks for the save. I owe you one. There was no save. I was perfectly fine. As my rage fizzled out, I realized he was still holding my hand. It felt warm and soft against mine. I quickly let go before clearing my throat. So, what brings you to this neck of the woods? Pretty far from your usual area. Jason's smile finally faltered. I was doing some research to get into character. My next role's a guy from the ghetto. I just wanted to get the feel of the place. Ghetto? I raised an eyebrow. I hate to break it to you, but it isn't really the hood. It's just your basic working-class neighborhood. Oh, Jason said, blushing. I didn't mean to offend. I waved him off. It's cool. But in the future, see if you can avoid appearing so much like, you. The designer jeans, $1,000 watch, hoodie, and cap combo. It all sort of gave you away. Jason chuckled and shook his head. Duly noted. I'll work on my average Joe look. Remembering my earlier warning, I leapt to my feet. Also, didn't I tell you to avoid cars? I did. I took the subway. He dug his hand into his pocket and pulled out a Metro card. See? Jeez, what was I supposed to do with him? How do you plan to get home? He shrugged like I was the stupid one. The Metro? I considered going back to my apartment and leaving him alone, but I had a heart. Kinda. Look, Jason, I'm sure there are pictures of you online in this outfit. You'll be mobbed on the Metro. Take a taxi instead. I didn't bring any cash. I held back a scream, muttering through gritted teeth. Fine, make a transfer. Jason blushed, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm not with my phone. My head pounded. I could hear the faint sound of rapture trumpets in my ears. I was close to sending either Jason or myself to heaven. The need to get him out of my sight was too strong. I shoved my hand into my pocket, pulling out my last $50. He hadn't even given me my first paycheck. I shoved it into his hands before I changed my mind. Here, take a taxi and be gone. He looked at me, then at the money in his hand, then back at me. You're giving me the money? Unwilling to reply, I pulled his hood over his head, revealing only his nose, lips, and sharp jawline. Why did that make him even look more attractive? Let's go. I hauled him down the street, hailed a taxi, and shoved him inside. Later, in the solitude of my apartment, I remembered his words. I'm so sick of it, all of it. The parties, the paps, the phony people. I just want to, have a beer and chill with someone real for once. Someone who isn't kissing my ass for a come-up. So, that's how he viewed his life. The Jason Nash that I was starting to discover had another side to him. An almost childish innocence. He just wanted real friends. Before I knew it, I'd sent a message. If you don't mind cheap beer, my place is always open to you. Damn you, Kory! My palms went cold and I huddled in a corner, hitting the back of my head against the wall repeatedly. The vision I had earlier in the day became clearer, even more vivid. I saw Jason, lying in bed. I could see the silk sheets, hear the soft music playing in the background, and there I was, straddling him, my hands around his throat, snuffing the life out of him. Sure, Jason danced tango on my last nerve, but killing him? I wished my visions weren't real. They couldn't be real. I've rubbed my palm over my face, trying to wake myself up from a bad dream. But it was futile. It wasn't a joke or a lie anymore. Truly, Jason Nash was going to die, and it would be in my hands. 1 week later, I stared at the beer in my hand like it might rear up and bite me, which, considering my luck lately, wasn't entirely outside the realm of possibility. Because currently, Jason Nash was lounging on my couch like he owned the place, sipping a matching beer and eyeing my DVD collection like it held the secrets of the universe. What the actual hell? When he'd shown up at my door this morning, bag of bagels in one hand and a tray of Starbucks in the other, I'd nearly had a coronary. Sure, I'd extended an olive branch via text after the convenience store incident, but that had been a week ago. Jason had never responded despite seeing me several times during the week, so I figured that the bridge was well and truly burned. Apparently not. You've got some prime cuts here, he remarked, running a finger along the spines of my prize movie collection. Casablanca, Citizen Kane, The Maltese Falcon. I wouldn't have pegged you for such a classics buff. I shrugged, trying to play it cool even as my heart tap danced against my ribs. What can I say? I'm a man of refined tastes. He smirked. Could have fooled me, with a PBR and Funyuns. Hey, don't knock the Funyuns. I plopped down beside him, the couch springs creaking in protest. They're a cornerstone of any balanced breakfast. Jason snorted, but there was a warmth to it. A fondness that made my lungs feel tight. God, when did that happen? When did his stupid pretty boy face start to seem endearing? I took a swig of beer to drown out the thought. Bad idea. Very bad idea, Kory. But Jason was already reaching for one of the DVDs, studying the faded artwork. Man,
I haven't seen The Big Sleep in years. My mom used to love this movie.
A shadow flickered across his annoyingly symmetrical features, and I frowned. Used to? He stared down at his beer, picking at the label.
She died when I was 15.
Shit. Stellar response, Kory. I'm sorry, man. Jason lifted one shoulder.
It was a long time ago, but she's kind of the reason I'm so...
He waved a hand vaguely.
You know, weird about death and the supernatural and stuff.
My stomach dropped like a stone. Oh, I knew. I knew all too well. But I didn't know this part.
She was really into all that,
He continued, voice distant.
Seances, Ouija boards, psychics, especially after my dad split. I think she was trying to contact him, figure out why he left.
He huffed a mirthless laugh.
Joke's on her, though. Turns out dear old dad was just banging his secretary in Boca. No magic required.
I winced. Talk about childhood trauma. That's rough, buddy. Jason shook his head like he was shaking off cobwebs.
Anyway, she got real deep into it, the occult. Started telling me she could see things, spirits, omens. Said I was marked, that death was coming for me.
A chill slithered down my spine. Suddenly the beer tasted sour on my tongue. He let out a shaky exhale.
She died a week later. Brain aneurysm. No warning.
His knuckles were white around the bottle.
So, I guess she was right. Death came for our family after all.
I swallowed hard. What could I possibly say to that? Sorry your mom traumatized you with a bunch of morbid predictions and then kicked the bucket? But as I studied his face, the tired eyes, the tight jaw, I felt a pang of raw empathy slice through me. I knew that look. I saw it in the mirror every damn day. Loneliness, grief, the bone-deep exhaustion of carrying the weight of your own cursed existence. Wordlessly, I reached out and covered his hand with mine, lifting it up every other second. He stiffened but didn't pull away. I get it, I said quietly. The isolation, the fear, feeling like you're a magnet for all the worst shit the universe has to offer. Jason's gaze snapped to mine.
You do?
I smiled, although it felt brittle on my face. Why do you think I don't have a ton of friends banging down my door? Turns out, being able to see people's futures is a real party trick. Right up until you predict something terrible. Understanding dawned in his expression.
They got creeped out by your gift.
Got it in one. I tipped my beer at him in a weak salute. Turns out, most folks don't actually want to know what's coming down the pipeline, especially if it's bad news.
Jesus.
He laced our fingers together, and I tried to ignore the way my pulse jumped.
I'm sorry, Kory. That must have been so goddamn lonely.
Tears stung my eyes out of nowhere. I blinked them back furiously. Yeah, well, not like I asked to be the town witch boy in a Catholic orphanage.
No, you didn't.
His thumb traced over my knuckles, and I suppressed a shiver.
But that doesn't mean you deserve to be alone. You're not a monster, Kory. No matter what you see in those visions.
Oh, if only he knew. If only he knew what I'd seen for him. For us. I just needed to get out of Jason's life, and maybe what I saw wouldn't happen. I patted his back lightly, refusing to linger long enough for a vision. You too, Jason. You have good things ahead. His lips twitched, warming a few degrees.
That another one of your famous psychic predictions?
No. I swallowed hard, heartbreaking, clean in two. Just a promise. From one friend to another. Something flickered in his eyes, too fast to catch. His tongue darted out to wet his lips, drawing my gaze like a magnet.
Is that what we are?
He asked roughly.
Friends?
Friends. A strange word to me. I never had any. Did I want Jason to be my friend? I sucked in a sharp breath. suddenly parched by his gaze on me. Yeah, I'd like us to be, if you want.
Kory,
He murmured, and holy hell, I never heard my name sound like that before. Dark and soft, laced with something that kicked my pulse into overdrive.
what if I want...
He didn't even finish his sentence before his mouth descended on mine, hot and urgent and tasting faintly of beer and Funyuns. I groaned against his lips, hands flying up to grip his unfairly firm shoulders. Afraid I might dissolve if I didn't hold on tight, he licked into my mouth as he owned it, one broad palm cupping my jaw to angle me just right. I let him take control.
It's actually happening.
He panted between kisses, stubble scraping deliciously along my jaw.
I've wanted to do this for weeks now.
This was insane. This was suicide. This was the best damn thing I'd ever felt. Me too, I managed, head tipping back to give him better access. Wait, what? What did he mean by that? I thought he hated me, always making me run the weirdest errands.
Why do you think I always found new tasks for you on set? Wanted to keep you around a bit.
Was this the equivalent of pulling your crush's hair? Yanking me out of the moment, sparks exploded behind my eyelids and I begged, trying to fight it. Please, I thought desperately, please let me have this. Just once. Before, and then it hit again. The vision slammed into my head like a psychic truck. Jason, pale and unmoving, silk sheets tangled around his waist, my hands squeezing. No! I yelped, retching my mouth away from his. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't. Jason froze above me, eyes flying wide.
Shit, did I hurt you? Fuck, I'm sorry. I got carried away.
No, it's not. I dragged a shaking hand down my face, trying to catch my breath, mortified. It's not you, Jace. You didn't do anything wrong. He pulled back enough to search my face. It physically hurt to look at him.
Then what? What's going on?
Oh, nothing much. I just saw a vivid preview of your murder, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to be responsible for. But please, keep kissing me like you want to crawl inside my skin. I'm sure that'll end well for everybody. I can't do this, I croaked instead, pushing at his unfairly built chest until he rolled sideways, letting me up to pace the tiny area between the couch and TV, practically vibrating out of my skin. Not without you knowing the truth.
The truth?
Jason leveraged himself up on his elbows, frowning.
What truth?
I scrubbed both hands through my hair, turning to face him head on. It was time to stop running from this, from what I knew was coming. I saw it, Jason. I saw how you die, and it's me. I'm the one who kills you. Well, shit. 2 weeks later. Saying things were awkward at work would be the understatement of the century. After Jason stormed out of my apartment, I was sure I'd be fired on the spot, blacklisted from every makeup gig in town. He looked furious, angry, sad, and totally heartbroken. But amazingly, he never said a word. Just ignored me completely, staring ahead stone-faced as I dusted and dabbed powder around his icy silence. He called for me only when he needed me and ensured I was gone when he didn't. Until today. The day of the big finale shoot. The climax of the spy thriller he'd been shooting all these weeks. 2 months since I first spun my spiderweb of lies and conned my way into his life. 2 months since I told him he was going to die. I unscrewed a pot of concealer, dabbing it under Jason's eyes. He didn't flinch at my touch. He didn't react at all. I couldn't take it anymore. Why'd you let me stay? I blurted the words like broken glass in my mouth. After everything, why didn't you just can my ass? Spare us both the misery. For a long moment, I thought he'd ignore me, keeping up the excruciating charade that I was nothing more than a breathing makeup dispenser. But then he sighed.
Honestly, I don't know. I should. You scare me. Death scares me. I don't want to die. But at the same time, why would fate be so cruel? I've lived my entire life in fear of the unknown. I guess I'm tired of running.
I winced, shame flooding my cheeks with heat. I know, I'm so sorry, Jason. If I could take it back.
But you can't.
He caught my gaze in the mirror, expression unreadable.
So what's the point? Your visions are still saying you'd kill me, right?
The point is, I fucked up. I set down my brushes, hands shaking. Truly, I knew the vision hadn't changed. I got in over my head, and I didn't know how to get out. I never meant for anyone to get hurt, least of all you.
Well, a bang-up job there.
His smile was mirthless, razor-edged.
Really stuck the landing. Don't get comfortable. I can't bring myself to fire you. I can't keep you around after today. You'll get paid for your work on this set, and that's it.
I closed my eyes. I deserved it. Deserved worse. Of course, I was a death symbol to him. This was his way of looking out for both of us. Of protecting himself, too. Maybe if we stopped seeing each other, the vision would change. But when I opened my eyes again, Jason was still watching me, searching my face like it held answers. Secrets he couldn't parse.
I don't get you, Kory,
he said, so low I almost didn't catch it.
You are a liar and a cheat. But you're also, I don't know, decent, kind even. It doesn't compute. I can't even bring myself to fire you.
Before I could respond, a sharp rap on the trailer door made both of us jump. Karen's head poked in, her face set in its usual scowl. Jason, you're needed on set, pronto. Her eyes flicked to me, narrowed. Bring your boy too. The director wants him for blocking. Blocking? I repeated stupidly. What do you... But she was already gone, the door slamming shut behind her. We followed, making our way to the set. It was chaos. Grips and gaffers bustling, cameras rolling into place, and in the center of it all, an enormous 4-poster bed, plush with silk sheets and flickering candles.
Finally! The director exclaimed into his megaphone. You, pretty boy, get over here.
I balked, throwing Jason a panicked look. He just shrugged, equally baffled. Robotically, I stumbled over to the bed and let the director manhandle me on the mattress, shoving Jason down on the silk sheets.
Okay, the leading lady is in hair and makeup, and I need to get this final scene right before we start shooting.
The director grabbed my wrist, planting my hands around Jason's throat.
Choke him, but sexy. We need to see the raw, animalistic passion.
The words buzzed in my ears. All I could feel was the warm column of Jason's neck against my palms, the flutter of his pulse, the sandpaper rasp of his stubble. And then, like a freight train from hell, the déjà vu. Sudden, crushing, sickening. This had happened before. I had seen this, felt this. In my vision, Jason's betrayed eyes, the feel of his windpipe. Oh, fuck. This was how it happened. This was how I'd kill him in my vision.
No!
I jumped back like I'd been electrocuted. Jason sat up, alarmed. The director swore, the crew froze, a picture of slack jaws and wide eyes. But I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All I could see was the horrible reel of my vision. I can't do that. I can't.
Kory? Kory!
And then Jason was there, right in my face, hands bracketing my head, forcing me to meet his gaze. I struggled, flailed, hot tears pouring down my cheeks, blurring the world to smears of color. But Jason held tight.
Hey, it's okay.
He stroked my hair, murmuring softly, You're okay. I'm right here. I'm fine.
The vision?
I choked out.
It's this. Right now, I'm supposed to kill you.
But you didn't. He pulled back and tipped my chin up to search his eyes.
You didn't hurt me, Kory. You were never going to. But I saw it.
I trembled like a crackhead in withdrawal.
I always see the truth. It always fucking happens.
Maybe it already did, he said slowly, his eyes widening with sudden understanding. Maybe your vision, it wasn't literal. Maybe it was symbolic. I stared at him, uncomprehending. He cupped my face in his big hands, thumbing away my tears with impossible tenderness.
"You broke my heart, Kory," he said softly. "When I found out you lied to me, it felt like you choked me to death. You were the first person who truly understood me."
I compared my vision to what just happened. To be honest, it matched perfectly. All along, I was never going to become a killer. Jason was never going to die. I was just a big fool who didn't know how to interpret his visions. "Jason," I croaked, relieved and scared at the same time. "I'm so sorry for lying in the first place. I'm so sorry."
"I know,"
he smiled, small, crooked, and so beautiful. He grasped my hands tightly in his, placing them on his cheeks, bringing his lips dangerously close to mine.
"You can stop running now, Kory. I've got you."
And he did. He really, really did. Letting go of my fears, I pressed my lips to his, melting into his warmth. The expected sparkle behind my eyes didn't come. Just like the first time I touched him, I couldn't see anything, only the feel of him. The next weeks were full of us falling in love, facing our demons, learning to trust ourselves and each other. It hasn't been easy, but nothing worth having ever is. Jason's taking a break from the spotlight, focusing on relaxing for the first time in years. And me, I'm saving up for my own makeup studio. As for my visions, they're still a pain in the ass, but I'm learning to live with them. To use them to help people, not push them away. Things might change tomorrow, but for now, everything was damn perfect. The end. Question: would you be able to date a psychic? Thanks for watching! Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us on all of our socials. Catch you next time!